I accept there's some things that you wouldn't believe are possible, but it's certainly in the bodybuilding field and maybe in certain sports, there's going to be certain physical limitations.
Yeah, listen, it doesn't matter how positive I am about it, yeah? I will never be a 7-foot tall basketball player.
Yeah.
Because it's not in my code. So there are limitations to what you can do physically, with your body and everything. But it's probably more flexible than people maybe think.
Yeah. And I think that's a key point, is just being, that honesty to say, like, I'm going to set myself, because, in business and sport, you are going to sacrifice everything, I guess. And it's just knowing when to be smart, which you obviously did make that decision with yourself and make that agreement with yourself. And then once you've done that, it's like, right, now I know I can go on.
Yeah, and then your confidence builds on itself.
Yeah. And then what about when you went into those negative situations, the 2 times, the first Mr. Olympia and the second at the, what was the competition called?
The first Night of Champions was unknown, and the first Mr. Olympia was not unknown because I knew I was competing against, but it was still another level that I hadn't been to. So it was a little unknown. It wasn't negative. The more very negative situations that I had to overcome were injuries that I had. I had a bicep tear in 1994, 6 weeks before the contest, which really, I believe anyone else would have dropped out. And I did think about it for a couple of days. Like, I was totally devastated. It happened. I'd won 92, I'd won in 93, and in 93 just raised the bar so high that, people couldn't believe it. So now this guy is going to be really, really hard for anyone to beat in the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So that was what was ahead of me, and now, bang, I've got an injury that, this is definitely possibly a career-ending injury. It's not a little injury, it's a big tear. And 6 weeks before the contest. So I was just, for a day, I was devastated and like, I'm gonna have to drop out, there's no way I can do this. And then the positivists start to take over and say, well, how do you know that? How do you know you can't do it until you try? So you've got a handicap. And you can work with that, you can work around it. And let's say a week out from Mr. Olympia, if it's just things haven't worked out and you look so terrible that you don't want to compete, then drop out then, mate. Don't do it now. Let's see what we can do. So there was a lot of exercises I couldn't do. I had to have a lot of therapy on the injury to try and get the swelling down and everything like that. So it was definitely less than ideal going into that contest, which I managed to win. And the same, or not the same, but a very similar thing happened in 1997. I had 2 big injuries in my career, and they were both coming into a contest because I just pushed myself too much going into a contest. My problem was never needed anyone to tell me to push harder, or I needed somebody actually to say, hey, like, bring it down a little bit. So I was still training with the same intensity and trying to still kind of lift the same weights, getting ready for a contest as I was doing in the off season. And of course, getting ready for a contest, you're lowering your calorie level, you're losing body fat, you're probably slightly dehydrated, you're more exhausted, you're not sleeping properly, you're doing more cardio. All these things became too much stress, and now I know in hindsight, that's why I got injured. So I advise people now that I coach for contests to like change the training going into a contest. So twice I had to deal with a very, and the second injury was career-ending.
Right.
It was 3 weeks before the Mr. Olympia, tricep tendon tear on the left elbow here, and literally now I couldn't train. Nothing, no weight training for 3 weeks. And it was the same thing, like, you can't compete, you're gonna have to drop out.
Did people tell you couldn't compete?
Well, the thing was, I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
My wife knew, obviously, my training partner at the gym, and 2 friends of mine that I trusted. They're the only ones that I told, because I didn't want it to become public knowledge, because then when I went on stage, people would be really looking for it.
Yeah.
So if they don't know about it, it's better. And there was no internet then. It would be impossible to keep this a secret now. If I'd injured myself in a gym and somebody heard, and it'll be on the internet within 2 minutes, right? But then you could kind of keep things under wraps. So I didn't even tell anybody going into the contest. All I did for that contest last 3 weeks was cardio. no weight training, which is not, you know, for a bodybuilder, that's very strange.
Yeah.
And won that contest as well.
You won?
I wasn't at my best because of all these factors going in. I don't believe I was at my best, but I won the contest. So the 2 injuries getting ready for a contest were probably the biggest hurdles I had to overcome in the whole of my training career.
And what was your mindset going into that final Olympia then? Were you just adamant that, because you know, it must have been, like, I suppose even in bodybuilding, you know, having your arms swelled up, I understood that there was, you know, had to syringe some blood out.
I had a friend that was a physio, so we had, it's like a big balloon device that goes over your arm, and it inflates and deflates, so it's constantly pumping all the time to try to move that fluid out of the injury. I had that on for like a couple of days, like sitting in the room, and then the night before the contest, he came to my room and it was still kind of swollen around the elbow, so he put a syringe in there and just pulled out a lot of blood and fluid, so it was less visible. It was still a bit black and blue actually, and I tried to cover it with a tan, but you can see very, very slightly. I went into that contest in a state that I'd never been before. Vulnerable, feeling weak and vulnerable, not even being able to practice my posing because I was scared to like pose too hard. I didn't know the extent of the injury till I went to the States, because funnily enough in England we had MRI machines, but they were like a tunnel.
Right.
In New York they have an open one, and I was so big I couldn't even fit my shoulders into this MRI in England. So we went to New York and they said basically you got like a 95% detachment of the tendon, so it's hanging on by a little bit, so you better be very careful. So even posing I was nervous, and I didn't carry that energy that I normally had, of like invincibility, of power, of energy. That a couple of people have said, I think Chris Cormier that used to compete against me, a flex wheeler, they said they could feel almost like a force field around me. The energy was so high. And that's their words. But that's how I felt, and going to 97, I didn't feel like that at all. I couldn't train. I was worried about, even on stage, further damaging this or something like that. So not my usual confidence and level going into that at all. It was very hard for me to focus.
And after that then, was that essentially your bodybuilding career over?
Well, I didn't know if it was or it wasn't. I had surgery after this, after the contest, to reattach the tendon, and it was successful in that it reattached. But the surgeon told me the tendon was very badly torn, and some of the muscle was torn as well. So not only was it functionally weak, it looked a little different as well. But I was hoping for the best outcome, and I was thinking, actually going into 97, before the injury, I was thinking, it's getting to be a job now. I was losing that passion, that drive, and not surprising in the way I applied myself and like missed out on everything else in life because of this goal. So I was feeling like I'm going to need a change soon. I'm not sure how long I want to do this. But after the injury and not being at my best, I thought if I have the surgery and everything's great, I would like to do one more, because I'd almost like to redeem myself and go out on, you know, on a better note. But after the surgery and a couple of months, you know, rehab, and then I'll start training, it was pretty obvious to me that there was a big strength imbalance now between the left and right side, which made it impossible to train the way I wanted to train and train for Mr. Olympia. So that was it. My decision was made, and now this was traumatic because this was a decision out of my hands.
Yeah.
I would have liked to, I strategized and planned everything through my career, every contest, everything, and people tried to sway me this way and that way and the other, and they always wanted me to compete in the Arnold Classic contests, which is a big show and good prize money, but I knew that that was in the middle of the year and it threw me off of the Mr. Olympia, which was always my goal, to be Mr. Olympia. So everything I planned and strategized and did myself, and now it's like, boom, you're finished, and you know, you can't control the situation, and that was very difficult for me.
What must have that been like mentally, like having so much focus on where you're going, to be told it's over and you can't do anything about it?
Devastating. I mean, you know, went into a really deep depression, to be honest, and it wasn't just the retirement, forced retirement from bodybuilding. There was other factors in my life that were going on, but they all seemed to happen at the same time. I almost didn't know who I was. No. Like without this all-encompassing goal, it's gone. And what am I going to do now? Really, what am I going to do, and who am I? And it took some time to answer those questions.
How long did it take you to I guess, rebase yourself and say, well, set yourself a new goal, and or did?
So it was just an ongoing process, really? I think. I really couldn't put a time on it. No. You know, after some time, I said, stop focusing on what you've lost. Focus on what you've gained. What have you gained? You've gained freedom now. All the things that you couldn't do before. You couldn't stay up at night. You couldn't do this. You couldn't travel. You couldn't go on holiday. All these things, the world's, you can do what you want now. So I started to slowly realize that and discover that.
Did your sort of thought process play a big part in, I guess, you must have mentally struggled for a while, and then did you have to start training your mind like you did your body to sort of focus on what you wanted to gain? Yeah. Almost.
And I had to, was involved in the supplement business, so I had some duties for that, which was still keeping me traveling.
Right.
And I think through this dark period, what saved me is I always went to the gym.
Right.
So I always had that outlet. I was still training, but now it's just really for my health, mental health, more than like a goal. So I was going and, going to the gym, and you got contact with the guys at the gym. I do my workout, so you feel a bit better. Exercise is so important for your mental health. I think if people have depression problems and so on, and they don't exercise, it doesn't matter what you do. As long as you exercise and you get those neurotransmitters up, your dopamine and everything like that, I don't think it matters what you do, whether you're running, lifting weights, or doing yoga or whatever. But I think it's important to do something. And human beings were meant to move. Yeah. Our body's meant to work, it's meant to move. And the more you move away from nature, I think the worse it is for us.
Yeah. Did you get depressed?
Oh, absolutely. Very depressed for, I don't know what period of time. It's like it was very intense, and it slowly eased off as I involved myself in the business and realized that there's other things to do. I can go out and socialize, I can go to nightclubs and all this stuff I couldn't do before. So I kind of like got a bit into that, party scene and going out, and it was a distraction, I suppose, and I had fun until it wasn't fun anymore, and I was doing something else.
Yeah.
But throughout everything, I never stopped training, and I think that's really what saved me from being worse.
Yeah. And it sounds like you decided to focus on, although you could have focused on what you'd lost, which is probably an amazing career, you were focusing on what you could do. Which I guess.
Yeah, and who is Dorian?
Right.
Outside of this goal and outside of being Mr. Olympia, because it becomes like you're a representative for the sport. It becomes entwined in your identity.
Yeah.
But you can't play that role forever. So what role do you play now? And that took me time to find that out.
Yeah, because I guess it's, again, I can only compare it to business, but I guess the business or the career becomes who you are, and you lose.
Especially to the extreme that I did it.
Yeah.
I didn't have time or focus for really anything else. I had some interest, and one of the first things I did when I realized you got time now, you got time, got a bit of money behind you now from your career and everything, so you can do what you want. And I went down to South Africa and went on safari for a couple of weeks because I always had a passion for animals and wildlife, and so that was one of the first things I did, which I wouldn't allow myself to do before because it was too much time out of my schedule, and there's no gyms in the savannah in Africa. So slowly got in, to enjoy my flexibility and freedom.
Yeah.
Well, that takes time as well to be flexible, because you're so regimented for so many years. I used to do this mental exercise, which used to drive me crazy because it was automatic and I wanted to stop doing it. I'd go into a restaurant and whatever meal was in front of me, I would be doing mental calculations. There's a steak there, 200 grams of steak, that's that much protein, and there's so many calories there. And shut up, man, you don't need to do that anymore.